Hey, this is Dave here at Taboo Customs, and we are here again working on this WJ here behind me. Today we're going to be working on replacing our window regulator, specifically in this right rear on this WJ. This is a WJ we've been working on for a while. It's our Grand we purchased for under $1,000. We're working on getting it all fixed up, so running through a lot of different things on it. If you are looking for other videos, check out our channel. We should have several on this. Let's talk about where we're at with the window and what we've purchased. So what we've got with the window is it's stuck in one spot. Like if I try to roll it up or down, it goes about a ½ inch, probably because it's bound up somewhere, and we'll show you the assembly here in a second. So it was like pulled up and being held up with some pieces stuffed in here, but doesn't really stay up. So we're having to replace the regulator. The regulator looks something like this. So we bought a regulator with the motor, just easier that way. The motor is working, but honestly, it's not much more expensive just to get it with the motor on it and not have to worry about it. So we did get this off of Amazon, and we'll put a link to this in the description of the video, and we'll have one there up above if you want to come back and purchase the same one. So far, not bad. It was packaged pretty well. You see it's wrapped. I even put eyelets in the cardboard they riveted to, which is that's good. They wanted to try to not rip it out, even though it ripped out down here. But trying to ship stuff is kind of a pain. Okay, so try to show you how this works. Right here is the piece the window basically sits down in and connects, and will go up and down. Right here is obviously the motor, and you can see there's a cable. It runs here, runs through these black lines into this motor. See, a little bit easier on the back here. So basically, as this motor spins, it will pull that cable one way or the other. So that's what causes your window to actually go up and down. Next, we'll talk a little bit about taking off this inner door panel. All right, for the inner door panel, there's a couple of screws. There's gonna be one screw down in the little handhold here, and there'll be another screw back here behind the door latch. The screw here should be a Phillips. I can tell you right now, the one that's in this Jeep is not the stock one. So depending on who and how many people have taken it apart, you could end up with almost anything. This one back here, at least on this Jeep, is a T25 Torx. So make sure you take a look in there and see if it's a T25 or a Phillips. If not, you might be spinning your wheels for a while. Basically, pull those two screws out, and then there's essentially just clips that will hold the door panel to the door. If we ever get that screw out, probably not. Now, someone's already had this one off. They probably tried to fix it before. So yeah, there's not much to, apparently, okay, that was bare. That wasn't even hardly on. But what we were getting at, and we'll show you here in a second once we get this farther off, is that you want to be careful pulling this out. Those clips are pushed in there. You want to try to get behind the clip if you can and pop it loose. Sometimes, especially at the start, you're not going to be able to. If you don't do that, you can break the door panel itself, and you don't want that because you can replace the clips, but you can't necessarily do that with the door panel. So once we get it off here, we'll bring it up here a little bit closer and try to show this. All right, so inside here, there's going to be a couple of clips. Well, I guess it'll kind of depend on which door you're working on. And they go around, and there went something. I bet you that screw. They go around the rods, and you can kind of pop those off the rod, twist it, and then lift the rod either up or, well, on both of them. On this one, it'll be up. Now, these little clips can get brittle, and you can replace them. I'll try to see if I can find a link to replace them. Put that in the description as well. But pretty common, you can find a lot of them out there. Of course, we have our connector for our window, which is not wanting to come out, of course, with one hand. Oh, that did not like come out. Okay, so like I said, okay, here on the back of this door, you see there's yellow and there'll be green clips as well. They broke a lot of the yellow clips off. Here you can see, so this isn't so bad. Clip is gone. However, the issue we've got, we go to put this back together, is this one here, for instance, they broke that one completely off, so you don't want to do that. If it pops out or you break the clip, not so bad. You can replace the clip, but we can't really fix that. All right, so if your door hasn't been messed with, you're gonna have this cover in here, which is basically just kind of glued in. There's a black glue all around it. We're gonna go ahead, probably roughly completely remove ours. You may not necessarily have to do that, but we're gonna do that just mainly because doing the video here, it'll be easier to show a few things. This one and these, I mean, with age, you're gonna be brittle. It's like falling apart. So chances are you may not be able to save it if you do take it apart. And honestly, it's the least of our worries with this Jeep. So, and of course, it's stuck under the speaker. Yeah. It's fine. Unfortunately, pretty much need it off because you got to access bolts down here, this connector down here. You'll have to access a couple things on the inside, so whatever. Jeep will drive fine without it. Okay, so if we look at the new assembly now, we can kind of show you where the assembly bolts in. It will bolt in somewhat like, excuse me, right like this. This piece goes to the outside of the door. The motor will be here towards the front of the door. There's 3 bolts down here. The top one we'll have to remove. These bottom 2 for the motor we'll just have to loosen up. There's some holes that they can slide through. Up here we'll have 2 bolts that hold these right up here, and then we'll have one down here at the bottom, which is down here. Inside you're going to have the window, which has a small bracket on the bottom of it that goes into this white bracket. You've got these little clips here, and this can be the trickiest part of the whole thing sometimes, but we'll have to get in there, pop these out so that we can get that window loose, and then we'll start working on fishing this in here. Getting these back in can be a little bit tricky, but we'll work through that and talk about that when we get there. Right now, what we're going to do is we'll pop those clips loose, and then we'll start undoing this connector, those bolts, and then work to get all of this out basically through this fairly small hole up here. Should have mentioned, on this Jeep anyway, these 3 are 10mm, these are 8mm. However, I know on the new regulator and motor, these down here are also 10mm, so you may have some variance there. Disconnect that connector. We'll go ahead, we'll pull the motor bolts out first. Like I said, top one has to come all the way out. These just have to be loosened. But honestly, since we're taking it out, it's easier to just take those bolts out. When you put the new one in, it's easier to have those on there, because then you can line the motor up down there, and because it's going to be a pain to reach in there. That makes it a little bit a little bit easier. Oh, you know what? Actually, before we remove this track, we're gonna go ahead and pop those window bolts or window trim piece loose. Grab a pliers. Tell you what, we're going to go ahead, we're going to remove the speaker. It'd be a lot easier to get that other side with the speaker out of there. So we basically wiggled that bracket in there back and forth, got those two pins out. We got one out and then kind of lowered it and then wiggled the other one out and got it down. What we want to do now is I want to keep the window from falling down. So what we've got is this is basically just a trim tool. Any kind of wedge would work. Obviously, we recommend something like a rubber or plastic. We're just basically going to kind of wedge that in there to keep the window from wanting to slide down while we're working on this. Will make it quite a bit easier if we're not fighting that at the same time as we're fighting everything else. Now there is a clip over here that controls that cable that goes around there, fits inside this little clip. So we'll have to kind of pry it back, push it towards the front of the door, and it'll come out of that clip. And oof, sorry about the door rods. So now we've got that fished out of there. Now we can see why it doesn't work, because it's not even connected. This end is supposed to be connected here. That cable is supposed to keep going all around there, but it's broken on the inside. Fairly rusted, so yeah. If you did buy a regulator and it came without the motor, to remove the motor, there's basically 4 screws in here. T25 Torx on this one, and then there's some, like ours had some tape on there as well. Got to kind of work it out. If it's really locked up, you might have to take this apart just to disengage the gear from it, because basically a kind of a worm drive in there. You also have to be careful because this piece here does come off and you don't want to lose it or mess it up. It's part of the motor. Got the brushes in it actually, and see, I just pulled it apart so they're actually pushed in, so we'd have to take a screwdriver and pull those back out. But don't do that and you won't have to worry about it. But we're not concerned about that because ours came with a motor, so we'll carry on. As far as prep of the new regulator, this upper right bolt here, you should put in, the bottom bolt put in. I've got them about, I don't know, halfway in. You want them obviously not to fall out, but you also want to be able to get it in there and have some play to wiggle it in. These have a hole and then a slot, so you can put it in there, slide it into place. Similar on the motor, these bottom 2 here, make sure they're out enough so that you can slide them in there. Bottom 2 here we'll leave in there. This top one we've got out because those bottom 2 are slotted. Now make sure whenever you're starting to put this in that you get it in the right way. So we're basically going to slide the bottom in, then get the motor in, we'll go over here, we'll mess with the motor first. What we'll actually do is grab the connector down there and get it through the slot first. Take the motor. Try to figure out where the bolts went. There we go. With the motor in there, we'll go ahead and we'll forget where we put the new screw. We'll go ahead and stick the single screw in the top just so we don't have it pop out on us. Doesn't want to fit right. There we go. Okay, now we'll move on to the track. We're going to put the bottom screw in first, or bolt, whatever. Slide it down, and we'll work on sliding it over. All while the pins that stick out from the window, you have to watch for those because they will catch the track, and we're caught on one right now. Okay. To get the bottom hole in, you will have to have it cocked a little bit. Slide it in, and then you can pull the top over and get that in there, but you do have to watch out for the pin. It's got the window there. So now we'll work on the window, and luckily for us, the plastic piece that goes up and down is pretty much in about the perfect spot. I assume they help you out in the factory doing that. If it was not, what we'd essentially have to do is go over here and well, now we realize I put the connector through the wrong hole. Don't do that. It goes through this slot up here. I think it goes through the slot up here. Actually, I swear it was through that one down there. Yeah, it was. Never mind. You can cut that out of the video. Or not. I don't care. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. That doesn't seem to want to reach very well. And I just realized something with this motor. Grab the other one. Okay, so I just noticed something with this motor here. If you look at this one, this wire is doubled up. I think it went back through this hole right here. So I had enough cable to reach back here. This one though is actually taped to the end of the motor up here, so it's sticking up. We don't have enough wire to go through this hole and hit this without pulling it out. What I'm actually going to do, I think, is cut that tape that's holding it on there. Or I guess I could just pop that loose. Prefer not to though, I guess. Yeah, I'm just gonna cut that tape that's on there. So, if you're installing this, probably recommend maybe cutting that tape beforehand. Okay. Yeah, see, now we have plenty. I don't know about that. I don't know if they just don't realize it or what. Anyway, we'll go ahead, we'll tighten up these bolts, put our other bolt in, put a track here. Then we're gonna go ahead, tighten these up, and we'll work on getting the window in. All right, I think I got you in a spot where you can kind of see where we got to go here. Those pins will come down. There's kind of a slot in the back of this thing that it'll nest into. If you can work it around back and forth a little bit, get them into that slot, push them through, get them all the way through, and then we can come back in, and we'll probably have to use a pair of needle nose pliers to try to stick these in. They can be a little bit tight and a pain. Now we gotta get the window back down. Nope. And there goes our speaker, because it's not on a connector. Looks like I don't want to rewire it, but by the time I'm done here, I probably will have messed it up and have to rewire it anyway. So we grabbed the old one just to kind of show you. The slot for these is right here, basically right behind the, well, on this, the metal piece. On this one here, it'll be the main plastic section. Might have to make sure pin is all the way in. I'll try to do this by hand first, see what happens. Chances are you'll probably drop these pins down in the bottom. Actually, went pretty well. Snapped right in place. This other side. Do blind. All right. There we go. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and grab the inner door panel, test our window, make sure everything works. So I don't think the driver switch, so like you could go and test it from the driver's door, but I don't think the window will actually work unless this switch is plugged in. But if we go in here, test it. All right, you can see that everything does work. We're actually gonna have to pull this inner door panel back off because we gotta replace the clips. Now is actually a good time to go in and also spray some silicone into these channels for your window, run it up and down, get it good and greased back up so it doesn't go up as slow as these do, which we need to do this to every one of these windows. So anyway, now what we're going to do is we're actually going to go and we are going to replace all of these clips. Oh, you can't see a clip, can you? All of these clips in here on these door panels. I believe they're all yellow. Some of the front door panels have green ones. We'll put a link in the description for the video for the clips. Pretty easy. There's a little tab here that you'll push and they just kind of pop out like that. Like I said, we'll go ahead and replace all of them because they're all got some sort of wear on them. And being that we've already know a couple of them are broke off, we want the door panel to stick on pretty good. So put new ones on there, get it to where it sticks on well, and then we'll be right back. All right, we have replaced all the pins that we could, and this again, we'll put a link to those pins in the description. Easiest way for these is to first go ahead and hook up the two rods that you've got. One is going to be shorter than the other, which tells you pretty much where they have to go. Put them down in the holes and then just turn that connector down over it. I'll try to put a link to these little plastic clips in here as well. Sometimes they will break where they go around. We'll connect the wiring. All right, and now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna kind of put the bottom ones in location, and then we'll start pushing. Now, one thing that you're gonna want to do is this top, usually with like door panels, they'll go over. These don't, they just go straight on. So we're gonna go ahead and pop these on. Now the rubber trim at the top, you want to make sure it gets squared away. Someone before had left it curled over, so it's kind of set to that. The biggest thing is just, you know, if you get the pins lined up right, you're gonna know, because it's gonna go on pretty easy, just like that. If you don't have the pins lined up right, of course it's gonna go on pretty difficult. So basically the last couple things we've got now is to put our screw in here, and then also to put our screw in here. But like most of these, if you look down in this handhold here, the bottom screw hole is kind of busted out of it. So we've actually got a piece that we make and sell that will go down in here. We'll show you it in a second on the video. Go down in there and basically help to repair that area that's down in there. So if you're looking for that, check out, we'll put a link in the description. We'll have a link up top there on the video, and you can buy one of those. Let us get that installed, and then we'll come back and we'll show you that real quick. So what we've done here is we've got a piece that essentially goes down in here. Now it's normally black. We painted this one white just so you can see it down in there. So the issue is that this door here, when you close it, the only thing that holds this panel on and takes the force when you're pulling on this here is the pins, that one screw, and then a singular screw up here. Nothing else really holds this panel on. So what happens a lot of times is that hole right there will break because, you know, there's just a lot of force and people pulling on it for years. So this little piece here to try to repair those broken holes, try to spread out some of that force, you know, should work for most handles. Obviously, if yours is really busted, it may not work for it. But anyway, if you're interested in that piece, check out the link in the description or the link up top in the video. And, you know, so that should hopefully now keep us pretty good. So that'll pretty much do it for the window regulator replacement in this video. We thank you for watching. If you have watched this far, we are going to go ahead and we're going to silicone these. So if you want to watch here at the end of the video, we'll show you the difference from before to after with putting silicone in here. I figure people might be interested to see if you have, you know, a lot of times you buy these old Jeeps and the windows are difficult to roll down and up. You know, this one's, you know, it rolls down all right, but when it goes to roll up, you can tell it's struggling a little bit. So what we've got here is basically just silicone spray, and this version is from Napa here. So we'll go ahead and roll it down all the way. Go into the track. Spray some in there. Now the interesting thing with like these rear windows here, is it all over, is it like goes forward. So really this is the main track up here. Tell you what, we'll go ahead and give it one more spray. Oh, and we lost ours. That's brilliant. Yeah, anyway. So now we'll basically just go up and down multiple times. Try to spread that silicone down here to the rest of the track. As you can see, going quite a bit faster now. This has those little rain guards, which kind of slow it down and get up there. There you go. That's all I got. Bye.